Hello, I'm back to read The Magic Treehouse, The Night at Dawn. So we left off with Jack and Annie going into the castle, finding where the party was, and as they were walking down the hall, this person yells, "Halt!" and "Who art thou?" which just in that time means just, "Who are you?" And they start running, and that's where the chapter ended. So let's see what happens in these next two chapters. Hopefully they can get away. Chapter 5. Trapped. Doesn't sound like a good title for a chapter for Jack and Annie. "Come on!" cried Annie. "Hurry!" Jack raced behind her. "Here, quick!" Annie dashed toward a door off the hallway. She pushed the door open. Jack and Annie stumbled into a dark, cold room. The door creaked shut behind them. "Give me the flashlight," said Annie. Jack handed it to her, and she switched it on. "Yikes!" she said. A row of knights was right in front of them. Uh-oh. Annie flicked the light off. Silence. "They aren't moving," Jack whispered. Annie switched the light back on. "They're just suits," Jack said. "Without heads," said Annie. "Let me have the flashlight for a second," said Jack, "so I can look in the book." Annie handed Jack the flashlight. He pulled out the castle book. He flipped through the pages until he found what he was looking for. Jack put the book away. "It's called the Armory," he said. "It's where armor and weapons are stored." He shined the flashlight around the room. "Oh, man," whispered Jack. The light fell on shiny breastplates, leg plates, and arm plates. Shelves were filled with helmets and weapons. Shields, spears, swords, crossbows, clubs, and battle axes hung on the walls. Voices came from the hallway. "Let's hide," said Annie. "Wait," said Jack. "I've got to check on something first." "Hurry," said Annie. "It'll just take a second," said Jack. "Hold this." He handed Annie the flashlight. He tried to lift a helmet from a shelf. It was too heavy. He bent down and dragged the helmet over his head. The visor slammed shut. "Oh, man," thought Jack. "This is worse than having a 5-year-old on my head. It's like having a 10-year-old on my head." Not only could Jack not lift his head, he couldn't see anything either. "Jack!" Annie sounded far away. "They're getting closer!" "Turn off the flashlight!" Jack's voice echoed inside the metal helmet. He struggled to get the helmet off. Suddenly, he lost his balance and went crashing into other pieces of armor. Metal plates and weapons clattered to the floor. Jack lay on the floor in the dark. He tried to get up, but his head was too heavy. He heard deep voices. Someone grabbed him by the arm. The next thing he knew, his helmet was yanked off. He was staring into the fiery light of a torch. And that's Jack. Chapter 6. Ta-da! In the torchlight, Jack saw 3 huge men standing over him. One with very squinty eyes held the torch, one with a very red face held Jack, and one with a very long mustache held on to Annie. Annie was kicking and yelling. "Stop!" said the one with the very long mustache. "Who art thou?" said the one with the very red face. "Spies, foreigners, Egyptians, Romans, Persians," said the squinty-eyed one. "No, you dummies," said Annie. "Oh, brother," Jack muttered. "Arrest them," said Redface. "The dungeon," said Squinty Eyes. The guards marched Jack and Annie out of the armory. "Go," said a guard, giving him a push. Jack went. Squinty, Annie, Mustache Jack, and Red marched down the long, dark hallway. They marched down a narrow, winding staircase. Jack heard Annie shouting at the guards, "Meanies, we didn't do anything." The guards laughed. At the bottom of the stairs was a big iron door with a bar across it. Squinty lifted the bar. He shoved the door, and it creaked open. Mustache and Red pushed Jack and Annie into a cold, clammy room. The fiery torch lit the dungeon. There were chains hanging from the filthy walls. Water dripped from the ceiling, making puddles on the stone floor. It was the creepiest place Jack had ever seen. "We'll keep them here till the feast is done, then turn them over to the Duke," said Squinty. "He knows how to take care of thieves." "There'll be a hanging tomorrow," said Mustache. "If the rats don't get them first," said Red. They all laughed. Jack felt his backpack move. Annie was quietly opening it. "Come on, let's chain the two of them," said Squinty. The guards started toward Jack and Annie. Annie whipped her flashlight out of Jack's pack. "Ta-da!" she yelled. The guards froze. They stared at the shiny flashlight in Annie's hands. Annie switched on the light. The guards gasped. They jumped back against the wall. Squinty dropped the torch. It fell into the dirty puddle on the floor, sputtered, and went out. "My magic wand," Annie said, waving the flashlight. "Get down or I'll wipe you out." Jack's mouth dropped open. Annie fiercely pointed her light at Squinty, then at Mustache, then at Red. Each howled and covered his face. "Down, all of you, get down!" shouted Annie. One by one, the guards knelt down on the wet floor. Jack couldn't believe it. "Come on," Annie whispered to Jack. "Let's go now." Jack looked at the open doorway. He looked at the guards quaking on the ground. "Hurry," said Annie. In one quick leap, Jack followed Annie out of the terrible dungeon. That was a good idea by Annie. And that's the end of chapter 6. So, thankfully they got away. Hopefully they get away. We'll find out tomorrow. Bye.